Two people can face the same problem. One sees proof that life is against him. The other sees a reason to begin again. The problem may be exactly the same, but their futures can become completely different. Why? Because what happens around you is only one part of your life. The attitude you carry inside you decides what happens next. A negative attitude can turn a small obstacle into a wall. A positive attitude can turn that same obstacle into a new direction. Today's story is about a beaver who allowed one painful failure to change the way he saw everything. But when an entire valley needed his help, he discovered an important truth. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can choose what that experience creates inside you. Stay until the end, because this story may change the way you see your own problems. Welcome to Jerry Tales, where simple stories reveal powerful lessons for everyday life. Now, let us travel to Willowmere Valley and meet a beaver named Bram. Willowmere Valley was one of the greenest places in the forest. Wildflowers covered the hills, fruit trees grew beside every path, and a clear river called Silverstream gave water to every animal. And for many years, Bram, the beaver, helped keep the river calm and useful. Bram was not only strong, he was a brilliant builder who understood the movement of water, the weight of stones, and the strength of wood. Bram was proud of his work, but he was also generous. He repaired small bridges, strengthened riverbanks, and taught younger animals how to build safely. Then, one spring, everything changed. High in the mountains, melting ice sent the greatest flood the valley had ever seen. Bram's largest dam stood against it for hours, but during the night, the pressure became too strong. It broke. Water rushed through the lower fields. Several gardens were destroyed, and many animals had to leave their homes until the water disappeared. No one was seriously hurt, but the frightened animals wanted someone to blame. Some called Bram careless. A few claimed that he had never been a great builder at all. Bram knew the flood would have broken almost any dam. But every cruel comment remained in his mind. He stopped repairing bridges. He stopped teaching. He moved into a quiet lodge near the edge of the valley and worked only for himself. Whenever someone asked for help, Bram gave the same answer. Why build something today when it may break tomorrow? After some time, the animals stopped asking. Bram believed this protected him from another failure. He did not realize that he was also protecting himself from purpose, friendship, and hope. One summer morning, a young otter named Luma arrived from a village farther down the river. Luma was curious, energetic, and always ready to learn. When she saw a broken footbridge, she searched for stones that could help others cross. When rain ruined her resting place, she said, "At least now I know where the roof needs work." Some animals thought Luma was too cheerful. "You act as if nothing ever goes wrong," a rabbit told. Luma shook her head. "Many things go wrong," she replied. "I simply do not want the problem to make all my decisions for me." One afternoon, Luma found Bram sitting beside the river. She had heard stories about the great builder he used to be. "Will you teach me how to understand the water?" she asked. Bram did not even look at her. "The water does whatever it wants," he said. "Sooner or later, it destroys your work." Luma watched the river for a moment. It also carries food, grows trees, and gives life to the valley. Bram finally looked at her. "You are young," he said. "Life will correct that attitude." Luma smiled gently. "Maybe. Or perhaps my attitude will help me correct a few things in life." Then she walked away. Bram called her foolish, but her answer stayed with him. Several weeks later, a deep sound rolled across the valley. The ground shook. Birds flew out of the trees, and clouds of dust rose near the northern gorge. A large part of the hillside had collapsed into Silverstream. Huge rocks and heavy soil blocked the river before it could enter the valley. At first, the animals were not worried, but by the second day the riverbed had become a thin line of mud. By the third, the gardens began to dry, The animals gathered beneath the old willow tree to decide what to do. "We must remove the rocks," said a deer. "They are too large," answered the rabbits. "Then we should leave the valley," said someone from the crowd. Fear moved from one animal to another. Bram stood at the back of the meeting. He studied the distant gorge and shook his head. "You cannot move that hillside," he said. "The valley is finished. Save your strength and find another home." The animals became silent. If Bram saw no solution, perhaps there was none. But Luma had spent the morning exploring the dry riverbank. She stepped forward. "The main river is blocked," she said, "but there is an old side channel near the eastern hill. If we clear it and connect it to the water above the blockage, we may guide part of the river around the rocks." Bram gave a bitter laugh. "That channel is filled with roots, stones, and soft earth. It will collapse before the water reaches the valley." "Then show us where it will collapse," Luma replied. "I said it cannot be done." "No," said Luma. "You told us what could go wrong. That is useful information, but it is not the same as a final answer." The animals looked at one another, but no one moved. Luma picked up a flat stone and began digging by herself. For the first hour, the channel hardly looked different. The ground was hard, and thorny roots covered the path. Bram watched from the shade. "You will exhaust yourself," he called. Luma continued digging. "Perhaps," she said, "but I would rather become tired taking one useful step than remain comfortable while the valley dries." A rabbit began pulling loose roots from the earth. 2 moles loosened the hard soil, and a family of deer carried away the larger branches. Soon more animals joined them. Luma did not promise that the plan would work. She did not tell everyone to ignore the danger. Whenever they found a problem, she asked 3 questions. What can we control? What can we try next? Who knows something that can help us? By sunset, they had cleared only a short distance. Still, for the first time in 3 days, the animals returned home with hope instead of fear. Bram remained beside the unfinished channel after everyone left. He inspected the walls and quietly noticed several mistakes. The channel was too narrow near the bend. If water entered quickly, the loose ground could wash away. He knew exactly how to improve it, but the memory of the broken dam returned. So Bram said nothing and went home. The next morning, the animals continued working. After several hours, they reached a ridge of stone hidden beneath the soil. Their simple tools could not cut through it. Some animals immediately lost hope. "Bram was right," said a fox. "We have wasted our time." Luma's paws were sore. For a moment, even she felt discouraged. But instead of saying, "This is impossible," she said, "Our first path is blocked. That means we need a different path." She climbed the small ridge and examined the ground on both sides. Behind a group of bushes, she found a narrow curve where the soil was softer. The new route would take longer, but it could carry the water safely around the stone. They began again. From his lodge, Bram could hear them working. Part of him wanted the plan to fail and prove him right. Another part remembered the builder he had once been. That evening, Bram walked to the channel when no one was there. He placed several strong branches beside the weakest section. Then he marked the safest angle for the final bend with 3 small stones. The following morning, Luma noticed the branches and the marks. She looked toward Bram's distant lodge and smiled. She did not embarrass him by telling the others. She simply used the help he had quietly given. The new channel was almost complete. Only a wall of packed soil separated it from the water trapped above the landslide. They planned to open a small gap the next morning and allow the water to enter slowly. But that night, Bram felt the ground vibrate beneath his lodge. He rushed outside and listened. From the gorge came a low, cracking sound. Water had continued collecting behind the landslide, and the pressure was breaking through the earth. If the barrier burst too soon, The first wave could destroy the channel and flood the lower homes. Bram ran toward the channel. Luma and several animals were still there, finishing the last section by moonlight. "Get out of the channel," Bram shouted. "The barrier is breaking." The animals climbed to higher ground. Luma looked at the unsupported bend. "If the water reaches that section, it will collapse." "I know," said Bram. He stared at the shaking earth. For one terrible moment, he was back beside his old dam, hearing the flood and the angry voices that followed it. His mind told him to run. If he failed again, everyone might blame him. Then Luma asked quietly, "Bram, what can we control right now?" It was the same question she had asked every day. Bram took a deep breath. "We cannot stop the water," he said, "but we can strengthen the bend and control where the first wave goes." His fear did not disappear. He simply stopped allowing it to choose for him. Bram showed the deer where to place the thickest logs. The rabbits packed stones beneath them, while the moles opened a small escape trench. Luma organized the younger animals and moved them to safety. Then a loud crack echoed through the gorge. "Everyone back," Bram shouted. The barrier opened. Water rushed into the new channel. The first wave struck the supported bend. Branches shook, stones moved, and mud sprayed into the air. Bram pressed his weight against the central brace, while the other animals pulled a vine around the outer logs. For several seconds, it seemed the entire channel would break. Then the water turned. It followed the new path around the stone ridge, down the eastern hill, and into the dry bed of Silverstream. The sound of flowing water returned to Willowmere Valley. The animals cheered as the ponds began to fill. The gardens would survive, and the valley would remain their home. They thanked Luma for beginning the work and Bram for saving the channel. Later, as morning light appeared above the trees, Bram sat beside Luma near the river. "You believed from the beginning that everything would work perfectly," he said. Luma shook her head. "No, I knew the channel might fail." Bram looked surprised. "Then why were you always hopeful?" "Because hope is not certainty," Luma replied. "I did not believe the work would be easy. I believed the next step was worth taking." Bram looked at the river. For years he had believed that expecting the worst made him wise. But his attitude had only kept his knowledge hidden when others needed it. "My old dam still broke," he said. "Yes," answered Luma. "Your past explains why you became afraid. But it does not have to decide who you remain." From that day forward, Bram began building again. He still inspected his work carefully, prepared for danger, and learned from every mistake. But he no longer confused caution with hopelessness. And whenever a young builder felt afraid of failing, Bram would say, "A problem can warn you, teach you, and even change your direction. But never give it permission to choose your attitude." This story is not only about a beaver, an otter, or a river. It is about the way we respond when life does not follow our plans. Perhaps you trusted someone and were disappointed, so now you expect everyone to hurt you. Perhaps you failed once and decided that trying again would be foolish. Perhaps someone criticized your dream, and their voice became the voice inside your mind. Your pain may be real. Your disappointment may be understandable. But be careful. An experience can become a lesson, or it can become a prison. The difference often begins with attitude. A positive attitude does not mean smiling while everything falls apart. It does not mean ignoring danger or pretending that failure feels good. It means looking honestly at the problem and still asking, what useful response is available to me? Bram only saw proof that building was pointless. Luma saw information that could help them build more wisely. The situation was the same. Their attitudes created different actions, and those actions created a different future. The next time a problem appears, pause before you decide what it means. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, what part of this situation can I control? You may not control another person's opinion or the final result, but you can control your next action, your preparation, and the words you repeat to yourself. Second, what is one useful step I can take today? Do not wait until you can solve everything. Luma did not clear the whole channel in one moment. She picked up one stone and began. Third, who has knowledge that can help me? A positive attitude does not mean doing everything alone. Sometimes the wisest step is asking for guidance or learning a better method. Your attitude is like the direction of a channel. It cannot remove every rock from your path, but it can guide your energy somewhere useful. So remember, you are not weak because a painful experience changed you, but you are responsible for deciding whether that experience will control you forever. Let your past give you wisdom, not a permanent negative identity. You may not be able to change what happened yesterday, but today you can choose one better thought, one useful action, and one more step forward. If this story gave you a new perspective, write one more step in the comments. Let it be a promise to yourself that your current problem will not choose your future. Subscribe to Jerry Tales for more powerful stories and simple life lessons. And if you are waiting to feel confident before you begin, watch the story appearing on your screen now. It will show you why confidence often comes after the first step, not before it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next story.